back to our channel on this beautiful, sunlit day in Genoa City. We have a spectacular array of updates and deep dives into the latest corporate and familial dramas unfolding on your screens, so settle in as we unpack the explosive developments that are about to rock the foundations of two legendary dynasties. The corporate landscape of Genoa City is once again serving as the ultimate battlefield for personal vendettas, and at the absolute center of this impending cataclysm is the increasingly toxic alliance between Kyle Abbott and Victoria Newman. For weeks, the undercurrents of deception have been swirling through the polished corridors of Jabot, with Diane Jenkins Abbott sensing a profound and dangerous shift in her son's behavior. The Abbott matriarch has been watching with growing dread as Kyle gravitates closer to the Newman heiress, acutely aware of the historical devastation that inevitably follows when these two powerhouse families entangle their personal and professional ambitions. Diane's maternal instincts have been screaming that Victoria is utilizing Kyle as a disposable pawn in a grander scheme to consolidate supreme corporate power and appease the ruthless Victor Newman. However, the truth that Diane is about to uncover is far more sinister and heartbreaking than a simple case of Newman manipulation, poised to shatter the Abbott family dynamic and place the entirety of Jabot's legacy in unparalleled jeopardy. The devastating revelation strikes Diane with the force of a physical blow when she unearths the horrifying reality of her son's involvement in this corporate espionage. Through meticulous observation and the unearthing of highly confidential communications, Diane discovers that Kyle is not a blind victim of Victoria's manipulative charms. Instead, she realizes with sickening clarity that Kyle has been acutely aware of Victoria's reverse plan from the very beginning. He is a willing, active accomplice in this treacherous game. Kyle has been operating under the dangerously arrogant delusion that he possesses the intellectual and strategic superiority to outplay Victoria at her own game. He believes that by playing along with her machinations, he can ultimately flip the script and utilize the entire situation as the perfect weapon to enact a brutal, long-awaited revenge against Victor Newman. This shocking discovery forces Diane to confront the terrifying reality that her son is willingly walking into a meticulously laid trap, blinded by his own hubris and a toxic thirst for vengeance. To understand the sheer magnitude of Kyle's reckless gamble, one must delve deep into the psychological scars inflicted by his lifelong proximity to the Newman family's ruthless machinations. Kyle Abbott has spent years nursing a deep-seated resentment toward Victor Newman, a man who has repeatedly inflicted profound emotional and professional trauma upon the Abbott family. This lingering animosity has warped Kyle's judgment, transforming his natural ambition into a blinding, obsessive need to prove his dominance over the Newman patriarch. By secretly aligning with Victoria and providing her with sensitive Jabot intelligence, Kyle is convinced he is orchestrating a masterstroke of corporate warfare. He views himself as the ultimate puppet master, entirely oblivious to the fact that he is merely a pawn on Victoria's chessboard. His arrogance prevents him from seeing the glaringly obvious truth that Victoria Newman is a seasoned apex predator in the corporate world, trained by the most ruthless tactician in Genoa City, and she is merely allowing Kyle to believe he is in control while she systematically positions him to take the catastrophic fall for her own subversive maneuvers. For Diane Jenkins Abbott, this horrifying revelation triggers an agonizing internal crisis that threatens to tear her soul apart. She is suddenly thrust into the ultimate maternal nightmare, forced to navigate an impossible choice between protecting the son she loves more than life itself and safeguarding the sprawling corporate legacy of the Abbott family. If she exposes Kyle's complicity and his treasonous alliance with Victoria, she risks destroying his career, incinerating his standing within the family, and permanently fracturing their already fragile mother-son bond. However, if she chooses to remain silent and allows Kyle to continue his dangerous dance with the Newman heiress, she is practically guaranteeing the destruction of Jabot and paving the way for Victor Newman to exact a devastating retaliation that could ruin them all. Diane is suffocating under the weight of this unbearable dilemma, her heart breaking as she watches the son she sacrificed everything to protect willingly march toward his own professional and personal execution. The sleepless nights and the constant gnawing anxiety push Diane to the absolute brink, forcing her to realize that drastic, immediate action is the only way to prevent a total catastrophe. The impending collision between the Abbotts and the Newmans is steeped in decades of bitter, blood-soaked history, a foundational pillar of Genoa City marked by endless cycles of betrayal, corporate espionage, and shattered hearts. Diane knows this history intimately, having been both a victim and a perpetrator in the endless wars that have defined Jack and Victor's existence. She recognizes the familiar, terrifying patterns emerging in Kyle's behavior, realizing he is repeating the exact same catastrophic mistakes that have plagued the men in his family for generations, allowing his ego and his hatred for Victor to override his logic and his loyalty. Diane understands that Victor Newman does not forgive, and he certainly does not forget. If Kyle's plan to outmaneuver Victoria and strike at Victor comes to light, the Newman patriarch will unleash a scorched earth retaliation that will leave nothing but ashes in its wake. This historical context amplifies Diane's desperation, transforming her maternal concern into a frantic, high-stakes mission to pull her son back from the precipice before he crosses a line from which there is absolutely no return. Driven by a fierce, uncompromising need to protect her family's legacy, Diane embarks on a meticulous and highly dangerous mission to gather undeniable proof of Victoria's manipulation and Kyle's reckless complicity. She cannot simply approach Jack or Kyle with mere suspicions. She knows that Kyle will vehemently deny the allegations, and Jack, ever the protective father, might hesitate to believe the worst about his son without concrete evidence. Diane utilizes every resource at her disposal, carefully navigating the treacherous corporate waters of Jabot to intercept confidential documents, track digital footprints, and uncover the hidden subcontracts that detail the true nature of Victoria's reverse plan. Her investigation reveals the chilling extent of the collusion, exposing how Victoria has masterfully manipulated the narrative to ensure that Kyle will bear the ultimate responsibility for any legal or financial fallout. Armed with this irrefutable dossier of betrayal, Diane prepares to detonate a truth bomb that will send shockwaves through the highest echelons of Genoa City's corporate elite, stepping into the role of a fierce protector of the Abbott Empire, ready to go to war. The atmosphere inside the Jabot executive offices is thick with unspoken tension as Diane prepares to confront the architects of this impending disaster. The gleaming glass walls and polished mahogany desks serve as the pristine backdrop for a profoundly ugly collision of egos and ambitions. Diane's heart pounds a frantic rhythm against her ribs as she clutches the damning folder of evidence, her mind racing with the potential consequences of the actions she is about to take. She knows that stepping into that office will irrevocably alter the dynamics of her family, but her resolve is forged in the fires of absolute necessity. As she approaches the executive suite, she is acutely aware that Jack Abbott is also present, an unexpected variable that instantly raises the stakes of the impending confrontation. Jack's presence means that the fallout will not be contained. It will be a public, devastating exposure that will force the Abbott patriarch to confront the agonizing reality of his son's betrayal. Taking a deep, fortifying breath, Diane pushes open the heavy oak doors, stepping into the lion's den with the unwavering determination of a woman who has absolutely nothing left to lose. The scene inside the office is a masterclass in deceptive tranquility, with Kyle and Victoria huddled over a series of documents, their heads close together in a display of intimate collusion that sends a visceral spike of revulsion through Diane's veins. Jack sits nearby, observing the interaction with a mixture of paternal pride and mild curiosity, completely oblivious to the venomous reality lurking just beneath the surface. When Diane interrupts the meeting, the sudden shift in the room's energy is palpable. Victoria's posture instantly stiffens, her eyes narrowing into icy slits of calculation, while Kyle adopts a defensive, arrogant stance, clearly irritated by his mother's sudden intrusion. Jack, sensing the sudden plunge in temperature, looks between his wife and his son with growing confusion, his protective instincts immediately flaring to life. Diane does not hesitate. She does not offer pleasantries or subtle hints. With a demeanor radiating a potent mixture of rage and profound sorrow, she announces that the charade is officially over, commanding the attention of every person in the room as she prepares to dismantle the intricate web of lies that has ensnared her family. With a dramatic, decisive motion, Diane slams the thick folder of evidence onto the center of the mahogany conference table, the sharp sound echoing through the tense silence of the office. She systematically lays out the undeniable proof of Victoria's treacherous reverse plan, exposing the hidden subcontracts, the illicit transfer of sensitive Jabot data, and the chillingly calculated clauses designed to isolate Kyle as the sole scapegoat for the entire operation. Diane details exactly how Victoria has manipulated the situation, playing on Kyle's ego and his hatred for Victor to secure his unquestioning loyalty. She leaves no stone unturned, dismantling every lie and exposing the raw, ugly truth of the Newman heiress's predatory tactics. But Diane does not stop there. She turns her agonizing gaze toward her son, revealing the most heartbreaking truth of all. She exposes Kyle's willing complicity, shattering the illusion that he is a victim and forcing him to own his reckless, arrogant belief that he could outsmart the Newman machine, delivering a damning indictment of both Victoria's ruthlessness and Kyle's blinding hubris. Faced with the undeniable exposure of her grand design, Victoria Newman does not crumble, nor does she offer a single shred of apology or remorse. Instead, she retreats behind the impenetrable, icy fortress of her Newman upbringing. Her expression remains a mask of chilling composure as she casually dismisses Diane's passionate accusations with a wave of her perfectly manicured hand. Victoria leans back in her chair, exuding an aura of absolute superiority, and coldly points out that business is a battlefield where only the most ruthless survive. She masterfully twists the narrative, suggesting that Kyle is a grown man who made his own choices, completely absolving herself of any moral responsibility for his impending downfall. Victoria's icy detachment is terrifying to behold. She looks at the shattered Abbott family dynamic not with remorse, but with the calculated satisfaction of a predator who has successfully neutralized a threat. She makes it abundantly clear that she views Kyle as nothing more than a disposable asset, a necessary casualty in her relentless pursuit of supreme corporate dominance, leaving Diane breathless with the sheer magnitude of her sociopathic ambition. The most devastating blow of the entire confrontation does not come from Victoria's icy indifference, but from Kyle's shocking, visceral reaction to his mother's desperate intervention. Instead of experiencing a moment of clarity, or expressing remorse for endangering the family legacy, Kyle's fragile ego shatters into a million pieces of defensive rage. Blinded by his own arrogance and humiliated by being exposed in front of Victoria and his father, Kyle viciously turns on Diane. He launches into a blistering, venomous tirade, accusing his mother of sabotaging his master plan and ruining his one opportunity to finally destroy Victor Newman. Kyle stubbornly doubles down on his delusion, screaming that he had the entire situation under control and that Diane's interference has cost them the ultimate victory. His words are laced with a toxic, unforgiving cruelty as he threatens to permanently sever all ties with his mother if she ever dares to meddle in his career or his personal life again. Kyle's blinding ambition has completely severed his connection to reality, transforming him into a hostile, unrecognizable stranger who is willing to sacrifice his own flesh and blood on the altar of his corporate vendetta. Watching this horrific scene unfold, Jack Abbott is struck by a paralyzing wave of disbelief and profound devastation. The Abbott patriarch has spent his entire life trying to protect his family from the toxic fallout of the Newman feud, only to watch his own son willingly embrace the darkness. As Jack processes the undeniable evidence of Kyle's betrayal and witnesses the sheer cruelty of his son's attack on Diane, a deep, agonizing sorrow settles over his heart. He realizes that the boy he raised has been consumed by the very hatred and ambition that Jack has fought so hard to eradicate from their lives. The revelation that Kyle was willing to risk the entirety of Jabot just to strike a blow against Victor Newman is a betrayal that cuts Jack to his absolute core. He looks at his son and sees the terrifying reflection of his own past mistakes, amplified by a dangerous, unchecked arrogance. The foundation of the Abbott family is fracturing right before Jack's eyes, and he is entirely powerless to stop the emotional hemorrhage, watching his office transform into a graveyard of shattered trust and broken promises. The fiery confrontation at Jabot concludes not with a resolution, but with a catastrophic severing of ties that will forever alter the landscape of Genoa City. Victoria Newman sweeps out of the office with her head held high, leaving a trail of devastation in her wake, entirely unbothered by the familial destruction she has orchestrated. Kyle, consumed by a toxic mixture of humiliation and blinding rage, storms out shortly after, leaving Diane and Jack standing amidst the ruins of their shattered family. Diane is left suffocating under the weight of her son's cruel rejection, her heart broken by the realization that her desperate attempt to save him has only pushed him further into the abyss. Kyle is now plunging deeper into Victoria's complex, perilous web, entirely isolated from the protective embrace of his family and dangerously exposed to the impending wrath of Victor Newman. As the dust settles on this apocalyptic confrontation, a chilling question hangs heavily in the air regarding how Diane will navigate this unprecedented betrayal. With Kyle now operating as a rogue agent, blinded by vengeance and manipulated by the Newmans, what desperate, unthinkable measures will Diane take next to save her son from total annihilation? And will her next move trigger a corporate war that Genoa City will never survive?